What's going on, chess crew? What I wanted to do is just kind of share a video about dynamic play versus static play. And because I had a lot of you asking me about videos for creating some, Gambit videos, which I'm all for and I'm going to do. But before I get into opening videos and creating videos, one of the first things that I want you to watch is just the difference between dynamic play and static play and how you have to go about playing the game if you are going to jump into gambits. And the truth is you can play fun games and dynamic games with systems like the London or the Ready, which are just basically an opening system. But you can also do this with gambits as well. But really it's about the style of play and activating your pieces and kind of ignoring the value of the pieces on the board in front of you and giving more value to the activity of your pieces. And a lot of high-level players will tell you, like, activity of pieces trumps everything. And this is a good example of a recent game of mine, which was a blitz game that I played just recently. And one of the things that I wanted to share about this blitz game is because this is a good example of what I would call dynamic play versus static play in a position. Now, if you look at the position, none of the pawns are traded. Really, none of the pieces are traded. So this game actually looks pretty what I would call dull. I have a number of options. I can just bring the bishop out here or here. I don't want to bring it out here because then I'd be falling to this fork, so I don't want to bring it out there. But I can bring the bishop out here. If I would prefer, I can develop here and bring the bishop here to challenge the bishop in this direction. Or maybe I just bring the bishop here to get the rook. So, those are all, moves that I would consider are okay moves. Nothing good, nothing bad. They're just okay moves. But here, there's actually kind of a good move in this position if you want to play this position dynamically. And the way to do that is to play this move, which is the move I played in the game, which is go here. And if you notice, it's literally just giving up two free pawns. This pawn and this pawn, he can both take for free. But what I gained is activity in that bishop. So I didn't care about the pawn because in my opinion, from this position, that bishop really isn't doing anything. We were just talking a little about trying to get this bishop out. So I said, you know what, let me go here. Give up the pawn, or pawns plural. I don't really care because what I want to do is get my activity. And from here, one of the things I wanted to kind of express to you when you play dynamically. When you're playing dynamically, you're really trying to activate your pieces. It doesn't always have to be going and attacking the king crazily. But in a lot of cases, what you're really looking at is, do you have two more attackers than he has defenders? That is general rule of thumb. Is +2 over what he has. And if you notice right now, here's what he has around his king. So he really only has one piece defending. By doing this move, I have 1, 2, 3 pieces that are attacking. So I'm up +2, which means this tells me that's where I should be going after him because I have those 3. And in my head, I'm also thinking, you know what? I would love to get this rook up and over and be part of the attack as well. Realistically, these two pieces probably aren't going to be involved in that attack very quickly. But again, just looking at the pieces he has right here around his king, he really has one defender. Where I have at least 3 attackers right now. So I'm going to go for it, and that's why I chose to make this move. But notice, it gave up a pawn. And if you're wondering, just real quick, why he went here is he's trying to open up this bishop's diagonal. If you look now, he's got a really strong diagonal for the bishop, which is why he pushed that. But on the downside, look what he just did. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, jumping over here. I think that was kind of a positional mistake for him, but we'll see how the game goes. So he took the pawn, and I don't care. I'm still going after it. And what he does from here is he takes. Now again, we're thinking actively. It's not a terrible move to go and play this bishop here, defending this bishop from this diagonal. We trade pieces. He goes here. He has a bad pawn structure, and I still feel like my game is fine. However, taking back with the rook now allows me to get another attacker in. So now I still have, 3 more attackers than he has defenders, which means I should have a pretty good chance of getting an attack, and he's going to have to start running pieces over to his king side. So if you watch the way this game played out, so he played here. Now again, let's think about this. I want to attack. My strongest attacking piece is my queen. Do I want to trade these queens? Heck no. So I block it. Now again, I'm not looking 7 moves ahead here. I'm just saying I don't want to trade. I want to make sure I do not trade queens. And I could slide back, but then it runs into him now attacking my rook. And if I bring my queen back, now my rook can't move away. So I am coming up with, there's a lot of problems created if I have to move the queen, which is why I jumped in here. He backed off because he knows that if he takes, my queen comes in here, and now he's stuck. And this is actually a good learning moment right here, which is after this move, let's just say, for example, he did slide his queen here. Don't take. You do not take. Or, you know, because the reason why, you know, and again, let's assume that the pawn was back here. Be careful about taking here because you want to make sure that your queen in this whole process can get to here. It's extremely important because one of the mistakes that happens in positions like this, where you're trying to do an attack, and I'll give you, you know, let's just say for some reason you went here, is trying to do something like this. What that gives him is a chance to do this. You know, and you want to avoid that, which is why you really don't want to be in that position where you trade the bishops here. So it's not something you want to do. You do not want to trade these bishops. You want to let him take so that your queen can get planted in here, or some pieces planted in there so that those pawns can't move and you can, you know, go after him and attack him more. So here is the position he dropped off because he knows that if he comes up here and takes and my queen comes here, he's going to be in trouble. So I'm bringing my rook over, just kind of a play. Now, again, you notice, I don't have a checkmate right now, but I have 3 more attackers than he has defenders. So I feel like my chances are good. And what am I threatening right now? I'm threatening to just slide my bishop here and then come down here with checkmate with the queen. There's nothing he can do about it. So he has to find some way of dealing with this. So what he does from this position is he jumps his knight in here. What does that do? Not really much, because I'm going to continue with my plan, because now, again, I am threatening. And, you know, what moves can he make with this? If you notice, one of the things I talk about a lot, and I'm going to talk about a lot in these videos, is what we call checks, captures, and attacks. I have a whole bunch of threats. I don't feel like this really, did much to address any of them. The only thing that it did is gave his bishop a chance to remove one of the attackers. So it's really what he's doing here is he's hoping that he can go here and then eventually win this, because if I can let him take this pawn, and then let's just say I foolishly take back this way, and then his bishop takes here, now I have to move my queen out of the way, and notice my attack's gone. Now he's got 2 or 3 defenders over here. He's got this, he's got the queen maybe, he's got the knight, and I just gave up those pawns before and wasn't able to finish my attack. So I don't really want to do that. So I want to keep my attack going. So that's why I went here, again, threatening. You know, I'm threatening the checkmate here. So, again, we know he was going to do this because, as I mentioned before, this square is critical to keep that pawn pushed. But this is where calculations come in, is after I exchange, or after I take this, the king would have to come here, and then I can sacrifice my bishop here. He takes, I take, and now he's in a lot of trouble. If he takes this way, this is a discovered check, which takes this back, and then I'm going here. And notice, I'm looking at trying to checkmate his king. I don't care about this dumb piece. Like, I just don't care about, winning that bishop back. I am looking at the different types of threats that I can create. And again, if you notice, 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers, and he's really got 1, maybe 2 defenders, but I got at least 2 more attackers, which means I have a chance to kind of, launch into this attack. He goes there, check, he blocks. He's trying to do everything to block the checkmate, and then I just slide in here, and he really can't do anything to stop that checkmate move right there. So this is a good example of a game which is, a dynamic type of game and a dynamic type of mentality where I'm okay giving up pawns, sacrificing pieces to really go after the king. But the true rule of thumb, and I want you to think about this final position, is he has 2 defenders, I have 4 attackers. You need to be +2 in order for the position to allow for you to play dynamically. One of the things I see with newer players is they will do this, but let's just say the rook's not there. It's just not the same. The attacks, the threats, and everything else aren't the same if you are only +1 in terms of the attacking defender. So really try to get 1 more attacker, or 2 more attackers than he has defenders, and then you can create some havoc and the dynamic play lends for itself. If not, I wouldn't have done this. So if you go back to this position, if I didn't believe that I could get these pieces involved in the attack, I would not have made this move, and I would have found something else to go, whether it's a knight move or just simply developing the bishop. The reason from here I went and willing to do this was for the sole purpose of, now I have 1, 2, 3 at minimum, and then 4 is what's gonna eventually, and he's going to have to deal with my threats, and that's what you call dynamic play. Attacking, and again, 2 more pieces than he has defenders in a position, and that's really what you want to go for.